Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Before I begin the quiz today, an important announcement. Byju's is coming up with the National Scholarship Test, which gives you a chance to win up to 90% scholarship on Byju's IAS courses. The test will be held on 26th of December 11 a.m. The last date to register is 25th of December till 6 p.m. The registration link for the test is given in the description of the video. Let's begin the quiz today. Question number one on your screen is this. Consider the following statements with regards to the CRPF, that is, the Central Reserve Police Force. Number one, it was originally constituted as the Crown Representative Police in 1939 and is one of the oldest central paramilitary forces. Second, after independence, the force was renamed as a Central Reserve Police Force by an Act of Parliament in December 1949. Third, the force played a significant role during the amalgamation of the princely states into the Indian Union since it helped the Union government in disciplining the rebellious princely states of Junagadh and the small principality of Kathiawar in Gujarat. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer is D. All the three given statements are correct. The CRPF, as we know, is one of India's premier paramilitary forces and works under the Union Home Ministry. It has been working in the form of the Crown Representative Police since the pre independence era. The reason why we are asking this question is because of this news article in the Indian Express today, as per which, for the first time ever, CRPF will now put women commandos on VIP duty, guarding VIPs such as the Home Minister of India, the main opposition party, and others who have been given Z plus security by the CRPF. As per the article, the first batch of women commandos will have 32 of these commandos who have been trained in providing VIP security. Also, this is not the first time that women have been introduced in the paramilitary forces. In 2012, the National Security Guard, which is India's premier counter terror force, also provided VIP security with the help of 25 female contingents for the VIPs. Next, question number two. Consider the following statements with regards to the qualifying age for different purposes in India. Number one, the 61st Constitution Amendment Act of 1988 defines the voting age for elections to Parliament and legislative assemblies as 18. Second, the Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act of 1986, which prohibits engagement of children in all occupations and bans adolescents in hazardous occupations, defines child as a person who has not completed his 16th year of age. Third, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012 recognizes a child as someone under the age of 18 years and thereby implies that the age of consent for sex is also 18 years. Which of these statements is or are correct? Out of the three statements, first and third are correct. The second statement is wrong because, as per the Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Law, a child is someone who is below 14 years of age. From the age of 14 till the age of 18 years, the person will be considered as an adolescent. The first and the third statements, on the other hand, are true. The reason why we are asking this question is because of the ongoing debate in light of the government of India trying to increase the minimum marriage age for women in India. This article in the Hindu newspaper says that while the marriage age will change for women in India, it will contradict many other laws because most of the other laws that we have in India still define child by the age limit of 18 years. The article gives you examples of multiple laws, such as the Majority Act of 1875 defines the age of majority as the age of 18 years and not before. The Indian Contract Act of 1872 also says that only after you become a majority would you be able to enter a contract. So when the government changes the minimum marrying age for women to 21, it would require the government to make changes in several other laws as well in order to avoid the contradiction. Question number three. Which of these is or are not correctly matched? You have to match the international borders with the forces that they are guarded by. India-Pakistan border by the BSF, Border Security Force. India-China border by Sashastra Seema Bal. India-Myanmar border again the Border Security Force. India-Nepal border by the Indo-Tibetan Border Police, that is the ITBP. Which of these are not correctly matched? The correct answer here is C. Except the first one, second, third, and fourth are not correctly matched. Why is that? Because the India China border is guarded by the ITBP. The India Myanmar border, on the other hand, is guarded by Assam Rifles. The India Nepal border at the last is the one that is guarded by the Sashastra Seema Bal. So, except the first one, all the other three are not correctly matched. The reason why we are asking this question is because of this unfortunate news in the Hindu newspaper today, under which a Bangladesh citizen was killed in a BSF firing on the Bengal border. BSF, as you know, also guards the international border between India and Bangladesh. Next, question number 4. Which of these given statements with regards to the parliamentary proceedings is not correct? Number 1. The President of India can prorogue the session of the Parliament. Second, the declaration of adjournment sine die can be made by the President of India. Third, the presiding officer of the House can adjourn the proceedings of the House. And fourth, the Parliament is summoned for the session by the President of India. Which of these is not correct? The correct answer here would be B. The declaration of adjournment or adjournment sine die has to be made by the presiding officer of the House, that is the Lok Sabha Speaker or the Rajya Sabha Chairperson. As you know, adjournment sine die means when the House is asked to take a leave and not told when to come back. Usually it signals the end of the session. However, after adjournment sine die, the President of India officially prorogues the session, which means the official end of the session of the Parliament. Except the second statement, all the three given statements are true. The reason why we are discussing this question again is because yesterday the session of the Parliament came to an end a day before it was planned because of the continuous disruptions that were seen in the Parliament. This brings to the end the winter session of the Parliament, which saw a lot of action, including the repeal of the farm bills, suspension of the 12 Rajya Sabha MPs, and 11 bills being passed out of the 13 that were introduced by the government. Due to the disruptions, over 60% of the time of the question hour was lost, and out of the scheduled sitting time of 95 hours, the House could only work for 45 hours in total. As we have seen in the past few years, it has become a norm that important bills are passed without much discussions or debates happening in the Parliament. Next is a previous year question from 2019. Amongst the following, which one is the largest exporter of rice in the world in the last 5 years? China, India, Myanmar, or Vietnam? The correct answer here is India. Since 2014-15, India has continuously been the largest exporter of rice in the world. Along with India, some other countries that export a large quantity of rice include Vietnam, there is Thailand also, which you don't see amongst the options, and Myanmar as well. As you can see here, India became the largest exporter of rice in 2015 and since then has maintained its position. Since the Green Revolution, India's rice production has only increased, and Basmati variety of rice in India specifically is always in demand throughout the world, including North America and the European nations. Next, we have a fact of the day today, and today we will be discussing about the Kerala government's Silver Line corridor, which has been in the news for all the wrong reasons. A lot of protests have been taking place in the state against this particular project, which aims to build a semi high speed rail that will be running at a speed of 200 kilometers per hour and join the northern and the southern end of the state. Called the Silver Line project, it would be about 530-kilometer long rail link and will link Thiruvananthapuram in the south to Kasargod in the northern part of the state, covering 11 districts through 11 different stations. Thus, the journey between the south and the north end of the states would take less than 4 hours through this particular corridor, as compared to 12 hours which it takes right now. This ambitious project is a joint venture between the Kerala government and the Union Ministry of Railways. Now, such a project requires a lot of land acquisition, The state government began the process of acquiring land after the cabinet approved it in June this year. Out of the 1383 hectares that are needed to be acquired, about 1200 hectares shall be private land, which takes a lot of time for the government to acquire. The cabinet has also approved rupees 2100 crore for this particular purpose. Now, why exactly have there been protests against this particular project? The opposition parties are protesting, saying that we can sense that there is a big scam that will take place in this project. Also, it would force the entire state into a great debt since they believe that this project is not really required. It's not that these two places are not connected by the existing railway network. It's just that it takes more time. Most of the trains right now run at an average speed of 45 km per hour since there are a lot of curves and bends on this existing stretch. Not just this, the project, as per the protesters, would lead to displacement of over 30,000 families, and that is why it does not really make much of a financial or social sense. Not just this, the project has also been facing a lot of protest from the environmental activists who say that the route cuts through the precious wetlands, paddy fields, and hills. They fear that the project will block the natural drainage and may cause floods during heavy rains in the future. The man behind the Delhi Metro, that is Mr. Sridharan, who has recently joined the BJP, also termed the project as ill conceived and being defective. Although the state government seems to be going ahead with the project, however, these protests will make it extremely difficult for the government to go ahead and acquire the land and continue with this planning. This is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.